City Council to order. First order of business, Councilman Sitt will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Councilman Williams will lead us.
All right. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we come to you this beautiful spring evening to ask a blessing on this group of people who are gathered, both elected officials and those who are attending this meeting that have come to express their opinions and listen to what is being said. Help us to learn from everybody that is here. Help us to keep an open mind. Please help this great country. And above all, please help us all get along. And we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Have no open comments signed by the mayor. Are there any statements you can leave from? Hearing that, we will move on to the approval of the agenda order.
Mayor, I would like to move item E10 up to.
Discussion on the tentative budget for 21 and 22. Request that we move that to the first item of the agenda so that we can have the discussion on that with everybody here. Is there any discussion on that? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Go ahead and change the agenda. Any disclosures or declarations of conflict?
We'll get to that part down here when we get down to one of the items in here, which is item E3. I have a personal conflict with the individual and how they maintain that facility that they want to rent out. And I will vote against it. And it is a conflict in my mind that they have that opportunity. So
That doesn't sound like a conflict of interest for you, though.
If I'm a city councilman and I'm voting against something that.
Okay. Well, thanks for getting that out in the open. Any others? Okay. Hearing none, then we'll move on to the city departments. We have anybody here from Ash Creek today? Apparently not. That's why I have to skip that.
Okay, just a heads up, they've shut down their burn season for, cleaning up in your yard and stuff like that. I believe that the ag burns will still be open for just a little bit longer, meaning you've got 5 acres, you're burning ditch banks or tree limbs, not bringing your neighbor's stuff over that needed to get burned. So you can still apply for those, but we need to be warned on that and also dispatch so that they can get that out. So we did have fire season starting. We had a fire up on Kolob this week. It started in a little shed with the generator and stuff like that, burned it to the ground, and then started the trees and a few trees and bushes and stuff like that. Luckily, it's still fairly green up there, so it helped it by the time our guys got up there in the evening. But
Land did it burn?
what's that?
How big an area did it burn?
It wasn't a very big area, probably half acre or less. Just it was burning slow, into the needles and stuff like that, and then got into a couple of trees. So, as you know, until it's starting to warm up, things are very dry, and so let's just be careful. For April, we had a total of 13 medical calls over this way and 2 fire responses, and I think in the last 2 days we've had about 5, so we should have a productive May. That's the way it's starting out. So, just a heads up. Anything that you guys have for me?
So burn season was originally scheduled till the 31st of May, is that correct?
Yes, it usually goes till the end of May, but then the state will usually close it down depending on the weather and stuff like that. And they opted to close it at the end of April. Just as dry and
Okay.
not enough rain.
Well, I think it's safe to say that we're getting busy here in Tokerville. Things are warming up, but I don't have anything in particular unless the council has some questions for me.
Mr. Catlin?
Okay, in our next meeting, we've got 3 public hearings, one on the MPDO ordinance with a couple more additions that were recommended from the city council, the PDO removing that, and a zone change for BBB Trail Ridge Estates. So the 2 additions we put in was the 100 acre, increase in 100 acres on the MPDO, and the buffer on the, against the existing lot sizes. We've got 4, how many items on the agenda tonight? We unanimously, well, we'll hit those when, I'll talk to them when we get up on the agenda, but as each one comes up, 5 items tonight that we've sent over to you.
Any questions for Dan?
Not till we get into these, but I think we're good.
Okay, good enough. Lance?
Okay, I really don't have anything. We did have that water leak on Berry Lane Pioneer. It's supposed to be starting hopefully tomorrow. So we'll hopefully be out 2 weeks on that. Then we'll have to get asphalt, which we'll see when we can get a contractor to do that for us. So hopefully by the end of the month, it'll be wrapped up. That's it.
Well, yeah, respect.
Going on or?
Those on Pioneer and Berry were aging, but this in the spring and the fall, when the ground starts moving a little bit, as the weather, you start getting a little bit more leaks.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more active.
Thank you.
The pipes on Fair Lane were 70s.
They're not, the pipes that are in there weren't up to city standards anyways. So this is a good time to upgrade and get them out of class pipe and into C900. So it'll be good.
All right, we will open then to a public forum. Anyone who would like to address the county or the city on any matters that are not on the agenda, this is your time. We'd like to limit you to 3 minutes if we could, but anyone that would like to address us may do so now. Okay, hearing none, we will move on to our working agenda. First item is discussion on FY 21 and 22 tentative budget. I think we need to turn some time over to Dana, I believe, for this presentation.
Okay, well, 30 minutes or less. Here is a draft document of the tentative budget for next year. You'll see our budget lines for the last year's budget, what the actual numbers were, what 2021's budget was, what and what we've projected. So these are our revenues, and they're all subtotal down here. We're going to get, last year we had truth in taxation where we increased property taxes to receive $200,000. Year to date, we've gotten 208. You also have to look at like delinquent taxes. We got sales and use tax, which the state was concerned that we weren't going to be where we needed to be, and we exceeded that. We budgeted 190, and we got 192 as of this date. Just the different taxes that the city receives, municipal taxes and franchise taxes. Then you got your miscellaneous revenue. Those are park reservations. Hold on. It keeps dying.
Speak loud.
Okay,
Talk loud.
so we've got a total of projected revenues. Oops, squirrely. Is going to be $1,326,475. I have to take the revenues and the expenditures and what else is not lacking we go ahead and find where the budget is lacking and put that in general property taxes, which is going to be your truth in taxation. So we're looking at right now an increase of $36,625, and that's with appropriating $100,000 from last year's budget. So once the tax levy rates are set in June by the county, we'll know what our mill levy tax is, and we'll be able to project how much of an increase that will be for property owners. If anyone has any questions on either the revenue or expenditures, you can come visit me, and I can do a detailed ledger of what those expenses and revenues are. This year we did get some COVID money, which we ended up spending $145,441. There is talk that we'll get another round of COVID funding that I did not budget for that, because you got budget, but you don't know what you're gonna get. And if we do get that COVID money, we are projecting to buy some water generators for our water tanks, right, Lance?
So the part of the plan with that council is that those funds would, we'd buy a backup generator to put at the spring so that we can pump up to the tanks so that our water system would function without power.
As well as maybe some vehicles, but maybe not. We've had some vehicle issues this year, maintenance, drug us down in expenditures, which is represented in the parks and cemetery and streets and water. So we've had kind of a heavy year for wear and tear on old equipment needing replaced. And fuel, I wasn't quite sure. I presume that the fuel prices are going to go up this year. So I accounted for that in our expenditures. So that's the general ledger. The general ledger is completely separate from the water fund. The water fund is an enterprise fund, and it's got its own budget. And I've split that out in the different funds, the general fund and the water fund. We got our sewer and garbage collection fees, and I tried to note if we have special projects like we're going to tear out some trees on Shangri-La. We're getting a city manager, so that's the main reason for truth in taxation. We did truth in taxation last year, but the council wasn't comfortable with giving the full amount for a full-time city manager, so we'll go ahead and go for the second half of that so we can hire a city manager. And with the growth of Tokerville, it's kind of a no-brainer. We need somebody who's going to manage the city and grow the way we want it to grow. We are going to buy out the lease vehicle on one Public Works Department vehicle, and one of our vehicles has died, so we're going to purchase another vehicle. We've never budgeted for vehicles really in the past, so that's something that I hope to budget for in the future. We're going to go ahead and estimate 25 building permits this year. It's a conservative rate, unknown of what development is really going to occur, so I was very conservative in estimating 25 building permits. And these fees are based on the current impact fees that we have now. Hopefully we'll pass our impact fee analysis study that will raise those rates and we'll have more revenue. We do have $60,000 set aside for the reservoir because there are some requirements that we signed with the Washington County Water Conservancy District, and we have to install a partial sewer pump, don't we, Lance? So sewer lines, so we're responsible for part of those expenditures. And once that reservoir is up and running, we will run it like an enterprise fund, just like our water fund, and it'll be separate from the general fund. If you see our water enterprise fund, here is our revenue and here are our expenses. And so we're going to have to do a little bit more tweaking in the next 2 weeks, correct? Ty, if you see that? Oh, you can't. Hold, please. All right. So if you want to, do you have any information? Because our expenditures are over our revenues in water. We're going to have to do a little bit more tweaking in that to get that to balance out. Cemetery fund is a little interesting, but it is a fund where we can only spend the money, the interest on that fund. So we would like to expand our cemetery, but maybe not this year.
Back to.
Okay.
We had a pretty good conversation about our contractual agreements with Laverne City for the dog, for animal control.
Yes,
We've budgeted, I've scrolled past it now, but we've.
$7,000.
Did already? Okay, so did we get any information on how many animals they've housed for us?
No, I'm going to email the Washington County Sheriff's Office and see how many calls we've gotten. And then we'll revisit that. But I didn't want to just cut that out. I don't have the authority to just cut things out. It's really your guys' budget. So if there's anything, we are planning to do a major project up at Anderson Junction, realigning the frontage road, which will encourage better traffic flows from the interstate. Yeah, go.
UDOT at this point, but once we. Intersection. Once we move the traffic off that, UDOT's going to realign the interchange and bring that interchange to a standard interchange with the correct length of on and off ramps. So we've got to move the traffic off of that. So we're going to take Old Highway 91 and dive it down between the development. I don't know if we have plans for it yet. Juniper Ridge. So anyways, we're going to build a new intersection right there that'll feed out to Old Highway 91 going south, and then it'll connect going north with a road that comes up and then ties back into the existing, just to the east of the dance hall. So that's what this project is, and that item alone will trigger UDOT to move forward on getting the interchange taken care of. Which?
The road that we built in on the other side.
Yes. So what's going to happen is we'll. Interchange will be the access. And once the water district has moved off of that Hall Road, then we'll bring it up to, we'll pave it and make it match, tie it all back together.
One of the two items on the expenditures that I was really shooting in the dark on was the engineering of next year of what that will cost. I went ahead and stayed with the same amount that we did last year. That may increase or be right on point. And legal, I was also unsure of where we were going to be at with legal. So if you guys could give me any indication, maybe after the meeting, or if that needs to be adjusted, I would appreciate that. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions from the audience? This is the time to discuss these things, so come to the microphone. Well, if there was one.
And we will have a public hearing on this at the next city council regular business meeting.
Hey, I was just wondering, on the water generators.
So it's like a diesel generator. It'll be by fuel, so it'll either use propane or diesel. And then when the power goes off, it'll kick on when we need it, and it'll power the pumps to pump up to the tanks.
Is that biofuel? How long does it run?
Depends on how big a tank we put out there with them. That couldn't tell you. I don't know what that tank looks like yet. Lance, have we received bids for the generator yet?
The one out here is probably about 30,000 for generator, and the thing went out in Anderson Junction is more like 80,000.
And then we'll just have to find out what the consumption rate is, and then we can base the tank off of that size, how long we want it to run for.
All right, thank you. Dana for that.
We agreed on this last month and came to conclusion to get that handled. We were waiting for the agreement back from legal. We received that just barely, so it hasn't been reviewed yet. We will want to keep that item on so that it can be executed at our business meeting, but there's nothing to talk about because we haven't seen the document.
Nothing to talk about
Yeah.
tonight. Okay. Move on to number 2 then. Discussion on a nightly rental application submitted by Marianne Bate for a nightly rental located at 80 North Toker Boulevard.
We have hearing on public comment on that, and it was unanimously voted to recommend approval.
Does anyone wish to address that issue?
If they've got if they've got a 5-0 recommendation, I've got questions for them.
Any other questions? Accept a motion? No, we won't. Next time we will.
That's the next
Do that
meeting.
next time.
Next meeting.
Practice.
All right. Number 3, discussion on nightly rental application by Craig Smith for a nightly rental located at 276 West Mountain Charm Road, tax ID number TMTC-4-1-4, zoning is R120. Does anyone wish to address that particular item?
On that one as well, we had public comments actually on both of those. We had both positive and negative comments, but majority were positive, and it was a 5-0 recommended approval.
Any questions from?
Yeah, I have a question. If they got a 5-0, Chuck, what's your, curious. If they say 5-0, they're approved, what do we got going
Well, I
on?
think that we have nightly rentals, that the conduct that's conducted in the home there should be something that people would be proud of. There's a 4-foot fence between my house and Mr. Smith's house, and that's on my side. It's 4 foot. And most of the time, we can see clear into his backyard from almost any place on my property. I'm tired of the loud noise, the swearing, a lot of drinking, and I'm particularly abhorred, as my kids are and my family is, by the lewd and lascivious nude bathing in the backyard. My kids can see, I can see. Sometimes my kids climb up on the fence to see, but most of the time they don't have to. You can get it when you're driving in and out of the driveway. You can walk in our garden. You can see people over there. I don't want to see him getting his naked butt spanked anymore by some woman, and neither does my wife. And so until that place has the Washington County limit of a fence across it, where nobody can see into his yard from my yard, I don't want him having a permit to rent his house or parts of his house into that area, because I have no guarantee that it won't just turn into a big party central over there. That's my objection.
Okay.
I guess I can follow on that.
Yeah, go
Those
ahead.
comments were made at our meeting, and there's been no criminal activity that we're aware of at that property, so that the sheriff's office reported.
No, I have very
We don't
judiciously,
know what we have at our meeting, so.
right? But I can make that call.
What are you waiting for,
Good.
right? I mean, what are you waiting for?
I'm waiting for you to stop doing it.
Why don't you let me know it bothers you?
We did.
No, you didn't.
Yes, we did. My wife has let you know, and
Not once.
yeah,
I think there's a different place to have this discussion.
you're right.
That sounds like something that needs to happen over the back fence.
Yeah, I would agree, it should.
So let's dispense with that, and
Okay.
we haven't seen, I guess, complaints about the nightly rental part of this. If there are other complaints, and those are things that you need to handle between neighbors.
All right.
Okay. Discussion on conditional use permit submitted by David Lindell for work proceed. for a workshop located at 140 West Sunset Avenue. Zoning is agriculture.
Okay, on this one, we had public comment given on it. We had a 4-to-1 vote. We need to go through staff comments. I will put forward the one vote negative on it was mine. It is clearly outside the ordinance, but the commissioners voted to approve it because of previous properties that are doing businesses in an agricultural area that are not qualified to do businesses in agricultural zones. And they felt it would not be proper to hold Mr. Lundell accountable when others are doing it. My explanation was that our purpose is to review the ordinance and the application, notify the city council whether it is in compliance with the ordinance or not, and the city council would act on that. So although there is a 4-to-1, the city council should really review the ordinance and staff comment.
So if you're doing a woodworking on a piece of land like that, it's not.
No.
It's not authorized.
Mayor, you gotta stop. Stop. I can't hear anything you say.
Your nervous twitch with your pen.
Sorry. I didn't know what you were talking about. Okay, sorry about that.
The conditional uses allowed in the agricultural zone are cemeteries, commercial kennels, commercial livestock operations, commercial roadside stands for sell produce grown and sold on the premises, public utilities, residential facility for elderly persons, residential facility for persons with disabilities, riding stables, vertical storage silos, and other uses similar to above and judged to be in harmony with the character and intent of the zone. And the carpentry shop does not qualify in that.
Interesting.
For furniture. As I had stated, had he been building chicken coops or planter boxes, we could probably bend over there. But
All right.
Well, I have seen that individual build both of those.
Yeah, but it's not that.
So,
it is a furniture manufacturing business, so is what we do.
Is there any other discussion on that item? Things that need to be brought up and brought to light before we consider it for a couple of weeks?
I'm just kind of curious as to how much revenue would be going through that business annually.
I don't know, Mr. Lundell, would you like to speak to that?
no, he doesn't want to tell anybody how much money he's going to make. I wouldn't want to tell anybody how much money I'm going to make.
Well, I guess it has to do with whether there's traffic or how much he's doing.
I think those are kind of things that we could probably address as far as traffic. What, how do you have people coming in to pick it up? Do you ship it out? Is that going to increase traffic? Is it going to affect
Shouldn't.
people's lives
I
over there?
don't plan on posting people. So most of it will be shipped through mail. Some of it I'll deliver. Does that answer your question? It's like 1 or 2 pieces a month. Usually coffee tables, sometimes, nightstands, things like that. It's not, it's not a cabinet shop or anything like that. I don't plan on having a large number of pieces go out. As far as revenue goes,
You don't have to tell us that if you don't want.
Or should he?
Yeah.
Just, and I met Mr. Lundell, and he's a very nice man. And then, like I say, it's that tax to me is not the issue. If we need to change the zone or add
Some
add
to the
something
zone.
to it,
Change the
then
ordinance.
we need to change the ordinance. All I'm saying is, if we're gonna ignore the ordinance, then if the city's not gonna pay attention to the ordinance, why should the citizens? Is my point. So he can rezone, we can change the ordinance if we feel it's too narrow. But really, we should follow our own ordinances.
My hesitation would be that we talk about agricultural ground, which is over an acre. So we're not doing this in a 12,000 square foot lot, right? So maybe we need to revisit what our ordinance will allow,
I
because
think-
there's
I think
probably,
that's exactly
it's
what
probably
it
as
is.
good a spot as any to do a cabinet shop or a furniture business. So, I mean, if we're gonna do it, a conditional use permit, I would probably rather it be on an agricultural piece of ground than in a neighborhood with people
Well, and
across the
I'm not in
fence, yeah.
disagreement, but using the justification for approving something is because previous planning commissions have approved it.
Yeah, it's
It's
not,
just passing the buck and making it worse for somebody who actually wants to follow the ordinance. So I told you I'm
So-
for black and white.
so
If it's
Dan,
gray, I'll bend with the rest of it every time. If it's black and white, I won't.
I think, Mayor, are you okay and council okay if we ask planning commission to review that and see what we'd need to do to make the change to that?
Yeah, I think that's the direction we need to go, is make sure our ordinance is where we want it to be, where we need it to be, so, yeah. Lance, did you have something you want to say?
Well, yeah, this isn't just Dan's one instant. I mean, we got Airbnbs, nightly rentals that are popping up, top sheds that are being put in the backyard. These are ordinances that I brought to your guys' attention before, but if we're not gonna enforce our ordinances, then why don't we have them? That's the whole thing. I think that's what Dan's saying. We have it in the books. We have a lot of things in the books, but we're not enforcing anything until the present time as far as
Okay.
what we have.
Okay. Would you, yeah, I think that's the right direction we need to go with it. Do we need to make a motion in 2 weeks on that, or should we just go ahead and pass it back to the planning commission to look at it?
Well, if we're looking at a review and expanding the ordinance, then we're gonna have to have a public hearing to change the ordinance.
Yep.
So this item,
It'll take a while.
yeah, it's gonna be at least 2 months. So like I said, I would have loved to have been able to approve it, but that's, well, the commission, put it this way, the commission approved it.
If you get it done in 2 months, I'll give you a nickel.
Really, that's all my time is worth to you?
That's- Well, that's about, yeah, pretty close.
Well, I think,
I'm just saying, you're not gonna get it done in 2 months.
Well, you know what kind of multiplier that is to the current pay that I have?
That's a whole bunch.
From what you get from us, that's a lot,
So-
like 500%.
I'm just saying, I've expressed my concern about treating everybody fairly and following our ordinances since I've been on. So,
Why don't we have somebody from the planning commission kind of take that under the wing and put together what they think it ought to be and then run it through?
Mike will be a huge asset for that.
Okay,
Okay,
she's got it.
all right. Great. Anything else on that one?
I guess the mayor, the only other question would be is that going to affect you, Mr. Lundell, to wait for 3 months while we work through the process of getting that approval done?
All right, item number 5, discussion on preliminary plat submitted by wall-to-wall construction for a 12 residential lot subdivision. Zoning is R120.
We took public comment on that and it was unanimously recommended for approval.
Any discussion from the council? Anything from the audience? Okay,
So I guess we're not there. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
okay, item number 6, discussion on preliminary plat application submitted by SRC Land Holdings LLC for a 96 residential lot subdivision within 4 phases.
Okay, we've had that public hearing on that previously with quite a bit of public comment. The developer went back and made some modifications to their plans, both in concerns from the public and the planning commission. We voted on, took public comment again, and it was unanimous recommendation for approval with conditions, and all of these are with conditions with staff comments. In addition to this one is confirming that they're in compliance with their agreements with their agreement with the city. And you should be set for a public hearing at your next business meeting, correct? SRC's public hearing at next business meeting.
2 weeks from today.
So one of the things that we have to keep track of, and this burden falls onto the developer, we have to make sure that we're maintaining our development agreement, meaning that they have to identify in each one of those plats, those items, like
That's
to correlate.
actually in the final. when they come in for the final. There's a whole list of, and this, the discussion we've been having in this is there's a whole list of items that they have to get to the MPDO ordinance in order to get to their final on this. They actually, at this point, per the ordinance, doesn't even have to have a signed agreement. This has to be a draft agreement. By the time they hit final, they've got to check off every one of those, including where their number is on their density, where if they went smaller than R120, where those lots came out of to go smaller than the R120. They've got a lot of work before it becomes before final. So, and we will check those off, each of those off. I am a bit of a stickler for this.
That's what I like about you, Dan.
Any other questions on that item?
So, I'm wondering if we reached a resolution with respect to the discussions that we were having about how the equipment was going to get in there, if we resolved that, and if it needs to be approved by anyone, and if it has been approved by anybody.
I don't think we've got to that stage yet. And this is a preliminary plat. There's definitely something they've got to come up with, a plan to get it out there and then get it approved by us.
I think that's one of the items that was brought up.
We will go through, and we will go through as part of our requirement on the MPDO ordinance is we will go through line items on the development agreement. And if there has not been a resolution to that, that we pulled that one out about the not using city streets, that's in the agreement. So I would be hard pressed. We'll put it forward.
Well, that's
Anywhere they are not in compliance with that agreement, put that forward to the city council. If it's not done by that time, we'll notify you it's not done at that time.
How long are we talking about?
What?
How long are we talking about?
Till the final comes up, or till, how quick is just, I'm not sure.
Well,
The first one.
it's a recording.
It's gotta come before us again for the final, you've gotta check off everything.
Yeah, so, I don't know, it's been different. The way I usually do it in construction plans, and I know this one completely different. Construction plans, start construction, we record the final plan after construction is done. And everything is inspected. So I don't know if that's the process here.
You know, we've gotta have all the drawings and everything, and everything checked off.
So you get a final plan
After
submitted at the
preliminary
same
plat
time.
is done, then we move into working with the engineers and we develop the construction drawings. And a lot of these concerns are gonna be touched on in the construction drawing. You've heard things about dust and drainage and those kind of things. Those will be addressed during the construction drawing phase. Once the construction drawings are approved, that's when they present the final plat to us. And that's the point in time when we make sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. Once they receive final plat approval, then they bond for the project and that moves into construction.
You know, back to the part of the thing is the timeline as well, that they have to present to us on the final. But
Yeah, a little different order, so that's, we should be, well, we get, heard from us in 2 weeks, we'll be, construction plans will be ready for submittal and within a month. And how long the process, review process takes, like.
it's the same thing, it should go through staff, and then as they come through, you're gonna have any updates you need to do for staff, then it goes to the planning commission. So
Is that usually a construction drawing?
construction, the final.
Is plan review usually a month process? Is it
Construction drawings, it depends on how well your engineers do and how many problems come up.
Sure, absolutely.
More likely it's a 2-month project.
Okay, all
And it
right.
could be longer.
So, say it's, let's say 2 months, let's say 3 months. And then the final plan would be submitted, submitting with the summer fall.
So they're, yeah, and then we're, through our review, you're another 1.5 to 2 months on that.
And we'd be able to get you all that. Yeah.
November.
Yeah,
All right, well, that's a process that we probably don't have to go through all tonight. Just so that you understand where you need to move to.
Trying to answer your question, so
Yeah.
probably before you see
Something
any,
without moving.
probably November.
Okay. Any other questions this time?
I have not spent a lot of time in your traffic study, so I'm just throwing that out right now. But I am noticing that as I scroll through here, that we're identifying traffic to be exiting out the end of Westfields Road onto the Parkway that's not in existence yet and won't be in November. What's the anticipation there?
It's even showing that out at bypass, so they're still coming down this way.
Well, this is showing, the traffic study is showing exiting the project to the south for, have you looked at that, Scott?
It addresses all the intersections, what percentage of traffic they think each intersection is.
The bridge load.
I-
I'm not sure what your traffic study you submitted,
Right.
coming out of the, you say, spots.
Yeah. No, we're, without the city council allowing us to pull permits, we're not increasing traffic. So, if you might come to you and ask you for a temporary, after you see that the bypass road is under construction, I think you might have more faith that that's gonna finish.
Yeah, I'm just looking at where they have their traffic counts going, and they're taking a percentage out to SR 17, and then they're taking a larger percentage out to the bypass road. It's not in existence yet. So, you know, as I read through a couple pieces of that,
Well, I raised that as well, because even showing the bypass, they were still showing 45% going down West.
well, we're not going to determine where they go. My biggest concern was the intersection at Westfields and SR 17. That is the worst intersection we have. And so that's where I was interested in making sure we were covered.
So, Councilman, our discussions with the fire, we will not be able to go vertical and actually build a building permit until that connection to bypass road is made. I mean, that's the discussion that we've had currently.
On the south end.
Thank you, Matt. So this traffic study that was presented is hypothetical.
No, I think it's predicated on the understanding that some of that traffic is gonna go to the bypass. And it's all been predicated on, there won't be any building permits issued until the bypass road is in, so.
I think that, I heard building permits would be permitted if there's an emergency access. That the bypass road doesn't have to be a paved road. The access wouldn't have to be paved.
But building,
We're getting way too.
Traffic's going in,
Yeah,
access, emergency access, these are all different issues, so.
Okay. But now,
Building permit's different than a certificate of occupancy too.
and it also sounds to me like these are issues that'll be addressed at a later time. So we probably ought to move on. You comfortable with that?
I just want to be prepared for public hearing when we start hearing objections, that we have some reasonable answers for the public when they come in here that they can depend on and know we're going to deliver. And so,
Well, I think Mr. Lou hit the nail on the head when he said they won't be able to pull building permits.
But
Until-
again, to your point, absolutely, you know, whatever questions or concerns that would be brought by the public will be addressed the best way that we can. It is still kind of a moving project per se, because there's a lot of pieces that need to fall into place in order for us to actually get to the point where we're actually having a building permit. Once you have a building permit, it's a process to build. Once you build, it's a process to sell. Then you get occupancy. Then you start actually having people moving in and out of the subdivisions. So I think we've got some distance to go to clarify that and get that all down. And it's kind of an interesting scenario just because it's you're almost running on faith, which is kind of terrible to say in this type of setting. But the reality is that's kind of the reality. We're not exactly sure. We've just got to be fluid enough to adapt to and address those concerns as it comes. But we will address those concerns best we can during the construction review process.
so if we make a change, just one more question, if we make a change in the development agreement, we're going to have to go public hearing, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we are very sensitive to concerns of
Thank you, Matt.
Any other comments or questions about this item? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Number 7, discussion on a resolution concerning uniform fee schedule in regard to commercial water rates and hydrant meter rental deposit.
Sounds like a time water thing.
Well, so we've already done the uniform fees.
Right.
I guess I need to have somebody identify what's changing. I know that when we did the commercial water rates, we ended up with a glitch and we didn't get that put into
Right.
the resolution. So that modification needed to happen, but that's all I was aware of. Lance, do we need to address any of the others?
The only
Staff?
other thing is what we consider on the commercial with your Airbnbs. I mean, Airbnbs, the water usage is, one of the water usage has jumped up, 30,000 gallons.
And Lance,
I think, go ahead.
I was just gonna say this was a valid point because what ended up happening is on the sheet that I worked, we focused so much on what the residential rate was. On the commercial rate, we had a base rate of like $150, and then it was substantially more for a commercial for that. So instead of like if you got the first 10,000 gallons for your $150, after that it was like double what a residential rate was. And it doesn't affect anybody today unless we identify bed and breakfast and nightly rentals as commercial, and then that would be applicable to them.
I think the Ashford sewage rate is a commercial rate for an Airbnb. And so therefore,
What's the rate on the sewer district?
what's $5 more, I think.
Well, so it's tiered, actually, based on usage. It's a higher base rate. So the base rate is 25 for residential, for commercial it's 32. So
Okay.
$7 more.
$7, okay.
But then 100,000 gallons, over 12,000 gallons, it's $2.86 per gallon.
You have a meter on each?
No, so we go off the water bill each year of their December, January, February usage. Try to accurately reflect just New York consumption use. And then, so we were actually just finishing this up with each of our 3 communities where we will come in and review all commercial bills. And then that sets a fixed rate for that user for their, we try to use, it's not, we can't meter. But as we come in and look at that water usage, that's what we're basing on is kind of what's being used, but it is at a higher rate. And typically what we're seeing with Airbnbs is close to 70 to 80% increase in those low usage months. It's a significant amount, and in some cases it's more than double what they've been using before. So it's, we've had several people kind of push back. Operators, folks who are operating Airbnbs push back things like they used to. Once we've been able to show them how their usage has changed since they started doing it. We do that in arrears. So we'll take, this year we're readjusting fees for users in the coming year based on the 2025 usage.
So that rate isn't, and I guess I'm speaking from someone that has an Airbnb. That $7 isn't going to kill me. And if it goes up to 10 or 12 based upon usage, that's not going to kill me. The question is, if somebody's got a B&B where they have a residential home where they're renting out a portion of their home, and they're normally paying, the regular residential rate, to have that residential rate jump to $150 as a commercial, that could be hard on some of the individuals that have residences with people living in.
We did not spend much time at all discussing that. So that's why staff brought it back up, is like, we got to figure out what we're doing with that.
One thing we might want to do is not get too hasty, because I think today the new state law was in, there's 38 pages of new law dealing with nightly rentals.
38 pages?
38 pages, new regulations dealing with nightly rentals.
Which,
as a matter of fact, they went so far this year in the legislature, they're actually rewriting the International Residential Code about what we can require for egress windows and all this kind of thing. So it's just barely hit today. I know no one's had a chance to review it and absorb everything that's in there.
I bet Heath's probably read the whole thing by now.
I have not. I've heard about it. I have not read it.
Well, then maybe the thing to do, Mayor, is that we table this item and just leave it as it was in existence prior.
So you want to go at least another month?
Well, I think so. Some time to dissect what's in there and then see what effect that's going to have, so we don't make a decision in 2 weeks to change it again in another month.
Let's go ahead and take it off the business meeting agenda then.
Yeah.
Okay, discussion on ordinance concerning public facility zone. It's a zone that we don't have at this point,
I mean, this building's not,
this building,
this is actually in
for example.
R112, R120.
R112.
We probably ought to fix that.
Well, one of the reasons that this has come up is that we have people parking in some parts of the city, construction equipment on the side, on the city right away. And we'd like that to cease and desist in most cases. We can't do that if we're breaking our own ordinance. So in order for us to do that, we have to have a public facilities zone.
Doesn't, I think, I would have to go back and read, Mayor, but
Uses and conditional uses in a lot of
and
zones.
I think it's a permitted use. It's identified as a permitted use.
In a residential, it's probably conditional, but in a city, we just apply for conditional use permit.
We probably never done it.
There might be other city facilities that are in other zones, but it's not like it's not addressed in our code.
So is it worth cleaning it up?
Well, I don't know, once you do that, once you go through on it and do a public zone, then you have to come back to it and rezone everything.
That's my thinking. I was trying to pull up real quickly. I think in most of our zones that aren't residential zones,
There it is on the screen. 20, conditional use.
that's written in cities code.
Well, this is ours.
No, that's what
Oh, our code.
So you've got
Got public.
public utility under in residential. So I don't know why we would put another
Well, we
category.
have public and quasi-public buildings, and you're saying, I'd rather have us change the term public and quasi-public buildings to public facilities before and I change that through these different zones, then create a new zone.
Yeah.
That'll be my suggestion.
So that means if I wanted to put a public facility on my single-family residential property.
You're not the public, I mean,
But I could create a public building, a gathering center, right?
No, it's a private, that's a private property.
private property.
Private individual.
Okay, just asking.
Yeah, you're, look at the definition of what a public building or facility is. It's government owned, it's not Dana owned. Yeah.
So would you,
Public swimming pool. I guess you could.
would you put that on each of those or just in residential? Or add it to,
We probably just need to look at the different definitions and see if those are defined terms like public buildings and public facilities. I can also see up there, I saw governmental services under,
Municipal buildings.
yeah, we probably need to kind of consolidate those into one defined term and then make that term.
do you want to do that or you want us to do it and send it to you? I'd rather you do it and send it to us.
I'd rather you do it and send it to me.
Okay, I'll do it.
I would rather you do it too.
Okay.
Remember that pay thing you were talking about?
Nicholas, you cover that
Different
one.
than his, yeah.
Yeah, you remember I told you you need to look for two alternates?
Yeah, we'll get there. Any other discussion on that item? Okay, item
Should we
number,
take that off the business meeting next?
Yeah.
yeah.
It was on as a discussion item. I think, I don't know if we need to discuss it more. Regular meeting.
Yeah. Okay, item number 9, discussion on city holiday flag expenditures.
Well, right now, we pay the different wards $160 to put the flags out, right, Lance?
We do, and there's 4 people that are doing it, 4 groups. And they're not, some of them are saying $160, just doesn't cover their expenses and time.
Is that annually?
Yeah.
I budgeted $250 per group.
So are they doing that for how long for 100? Just that one,
They do like, I think,
One
we have to
holiday?
divide it up 3 times a year.
so they're doing a third of the year for $160?
Yeah.
When you look at why they're doing what they're doing, it doesn't make any sense at all to do it for that much money. But it's a fundraiser for young men and young women's programs. And $160 gets it nowhere.
Do you think it should be higher?
Well, I think it either needs to be higher or the city needs to do it because I don't think we can expect, well, yeah, I don't want to do that either. But frankly, it's what our town looks like. So I think we probably need to raise that considerably. I mean, when they were doing it without the city's assistant, they were getting $45 per home per year. And at that point, it was a decent fundraiser, and they were collecting the money and handling everything through their organizations. But at this point, they're getting maybe $1 a home per year. And you can't, $160 gets them nowhere towards their goal. So what I'm saying is the philosophy of what we're doing right now is probably all wrong. I don't know, any discussion on that from anybody is welcome. Ty, have you got anything you want to comment on?
Nope. I love the way it looks.
I love the way it looks too, and I don't want to see it go away, but on the other hand,
Is that just going down the main street?
no, it's actually all over town now.
What do they do?
As far as what we know, we did.
No, the city did that.
Boulevard.
Boulevard and Cemetery.
Why did they go away from the people paying to have to put their own?
They still do that on other streets, but down the Boulevard, the city, yeah.
Well, one of the reasons we went away from that is because we wanted flags all the way along. We didn't want it to
That's what I was
be,
wondering. So,
Yeah.
Get it for that.
we wanted to line the street.
Kind of like we're working this too also.
Yeah.
Like flags extra, is that tied, when you guys?
How many does the
It's a
city
lot.
pay for? How many does the city pay
About,
for?
80.
80?
Does that fee that, the city pays for, do they, out of that money that they receive, do they have to replace flags that?
No, we
City
try
does.
to take care of all the flags.
The city stores them, the city drilled the holes, the city marked them, and they take care of the maintenance of them.
So it's just literally the cost of plate?
Yeah.
So for them to get, 2 adults.
Yeah.
Trucks.
On a holiday.
Round up those boys on holiday. It's just, it is,
I've put out a lot of flags on the boulevard. I think it's a great project.
to me and my family.
I think we've all probably done that a few times. And I think we probably all also complained about it at the time.
Well.
Anyway, I think we need to think about what it is we're asking people to do there and consider it.
We need to add that to truth taxation.
I budgeted $250 per group, but if that's something we need to change.
I'm wondering if 300 would be a better number. $100 for each time that they go out.
Yeah. They do it 3 times each, basically, each
Yeah.
group.
Do it 3 times, each time they get $100 and it's $300.
About 160.
Better than 160 a year, that's right.
So you're thinking 300?
I would recommend 300 versus the 250.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just ponder on that then for the next couple of weeks and come back with some real suggestions as to what to do when we vote on it. 2 weeks. Everybody good with that one? Okay, budget, we already took care of. Discussion number 11, discussion on ordinance, time of day watering ordinance.
So Lance, this is probably from you, from your meeting, is it not?
Yeah. The district came out with this, they're actually doing it countywide, they're asking the city councils to approve the new district policy from 10 to 10, I believe, or from 10 to 8. 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. That you can do no watering during those times with irrigation watering. The governors actually come out with culinary and ask us not to water.
So council, what we've done in the past is we've asked the citizens to mirror what we've done with the TSWS. So the watering times were the same. I think that's what we have in practice now.
So that went from it was 6 PM to like.
It's 6 to 2.
But now it's gonna go.
But it's on every, well, this is saying
That's
that
irrigation.
Right. Well, that's
Now,
what
they're
we're
trying
talking
to get
about.
every city to agree with this.
They want to do irrigation
and
culinary water.
Yeah, they're trying to get every city to basically do this so that we don't drive over and then they're watering in the middle of the day. They'll require they water or not. They're basically, we're having water issues. I mean, there is going to be a shortage. The district and the state is trying to make it mandatory that every city make it like.
I mean, they're not at that point that when I keep hearing you say they're trying to. So if Laverton says we're not going to, you're still going to see water in the afternoon in Laverton.
Correct. Every
That's
city
correct.
council has to approve it and do it, but they'll be getting
I,
a lot of pressure.
I think a big part actually of what they're trying to do is, given the current drought, they're pretty sure we're going to have restrictions down the road, probably fairly soon. And they want us to enforce it as a city instead of them to enforce it in the district. That's really where they're moving.
So we don't have enforcement, and what would the fine be if?
There is a fine, the Water Conservancy District kind of has that.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not sure
We
how that
actually
works.
have something in our ordinance, but there's not a big.
So as it
We have the
is,
authority to, if people are wasting water, if they're not,
Yeah.
according to what the city says, we have in our ordinance, we can terminate or fine them, but there is.
as it is, all it would require us to do is to move our watering time
Right.
from 6 to 2 to, we could go to 8 to 4 and have the same number of hours right now until they narrow that down. And then the city will be in charge of enforcement of that. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. Okay, so that is, any other discussion on that particular item?
The district said they'll be more glad to come and do a presentation to show you why they want to do it. If you're interested in it.
Just so you know, in our water ordinance, 8-1-11, currently prohibited times during May, June, July, August, and September, prohibited between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. already.
So we're moving an hour, 2 hours.
2 hours.
6 to 8 PM in the middle of the
First
summer. it
offense,
could
a
be
warning, second
95
offense,
degrees.
$25 fine, third and subsequent offenses, $35 fine for each day the violation is committed.
So would we need to change that ordinance
I would not want to make it.
to go 2
I'd
hours?
like to take those fines out of the ordinance itself and put it in our uniform fee schedule. But it is, we do have it in our water Title A, the water section.
Okay,
So if everyone has culinary water going between those times, well, we're going to have a water pressure issue?
Culinary or
Yeah,
irrigation?
well, irrigation is a different story. but
Right.
Culinary, what we're talking about right now,
well, we're talking about both.
Yeah, we're talking about both. We're talking about all water.
really shouldn't make any difference at all, other than moving it back for 2 hours, because people that are gonna water with culinary are already doing that.
Okay.
So,
So we don't
It
have to
shouldn't.
worry about pressure.
And this section of the ordinance refers to just sprinkler irrigation, landscape irrigation. And it doesn't delineate between whether it's culinary or.
yeah.
Very good.
And to answer your question, it could, particularly down the Sun River, they had this problem a few years ago. Everybody from the, well, they hired a landscaper from out of Vegas. All the timers were 8 a.m. and 6 a.m. By the time we took the showers at 9 a.m., the city was struggling to find water for us, so they ended up having to renegotiate and get it. But that was quite a drop in that particular area they had. So the city did have an issue. But here, I think we have capacity right now. We have actually beyond our capacity to supply that.
Also, when the secondary system pulls from the reservoir and that, it won't be a problem with it. And secondary-
Hopefully, we don't have to get to the point where we have to regulate shower times by household.
Who's enforcing that one?
Same guy. Okay, any other discussion on that particular item? All right, that concludes the working agenda. We'll go to council reports. Oh, yes, you bet.
Just as an idea that maybe you could share, maybe if I have a chance to visit with the Public Works Director, in my prior life, there was a little strategy, we talked about vehicles, and we talked about funding. In a previous city I worked at, our fleet manager / Public Works Director basically would buy a vehicle, use it for a year, put it on an auction for what he bought it for, and make about $12,000 a year later. Still under warranty, still in decent shape, mileage is down. There's some opportunity there. Now it's kind of a normal thing depending on the market. Case in point, this past year, the same strategy with similar type of a vehicle, F-150 Marianne, 4-door, bought for $38,000 on the state contract, sold it to a dealer for $49,000 a year later. So if that's something.
Low miles.
Yeah, about 7,000, 7,400 miles. But what I'm saying is the car is covered, warranty is covered, tires are covered, maintenance is none. And then if you sell, well, limited. But if you sell after a year, you get yourself another vehicle, and then you make a few dollars on the auction.
That's kind of what we talked about with the water district. The water district is now doing that. They're selling the trucks every year. So they used to trade them in, now they sell them every year.
But yeah, so if that's okay, I'll visit the Public Works Director.
Mosquito abatement is doing the same thing every year. They lease. So
You lease mosquitoes.
Maybe it.
Does
maybe
the
it
sewer
sounds like
district need to look into
good.
that?
They used to.
Okay, Mr. Sip.
I have a solid waste meeting on Monday, so our next meeting will have a report on that. Sewer district is doing awesome. I give Mike a hard time, but they're doing such a good job over there. There's a lot of stuff coming up in the sewer district world. I could spend an hour or two just going over that's happening, but there's no problems. Everything is flowing downhill on the sewer. So, Trails and Park, we had a meeting on Monday. Our Parks and Trails and Park Committee, we discussed our fundraiser for September 24th. Matt was here, he just left. He had a lot of great ideas. We are putting a flyer together. We hope we will have that here for our city council meeting. We have another meeting the Monday before our next city council, so it'd be that's April there. I can't tell, it says May, but anyways. 2 weeks from a couple days ago, we have another parks meeting, and we have a city council. So we will have our sign up. We're talking about a fundraiser we've got the band coming, dinner, basically a raffle auction, get together, selling bricks for the new bathrooms at the city park. So you can buy a brick, your name goes on the brick, goes in the goes in the bathroom.
Could have my name on the bathroom wall.
Just like down at the other park, your name's already on
Stop
there.
that magic marker on the inside.
Yeah, it's on the inside. It's not, you know, no phone numbers in there.
You can thank me for the setup.
So anyways, that's what's going on. We're gonna have to do a lot of planning, a lot of work over the summer to get that ready for September 24th.
One question on that, if people are donating stuff for the auction, is that you turn it over to the city, or what, how does that work?
Yeah, it's gonna have to go to the city, yeah.
So you do like, not a bill of sale, but what?
We'll figure that out.
Some kind of a receipt for taxes. and things.
Have to talk to the recorder or the treasurer, they'll have to know about that, I'm not sure.
Donation receipt, and you can fill out the value on personal property, real property.
Any complication with it being a wet?
No, we'll just have to go through the FFL paperwork, have a background.
We've
check.
got a gun dealer in town.
You don't have it.
No, we'll go through one, so that's not a problem. That's a whole different, but that's.
I just had a thought, which could be kind of fun. I just happen to know that, I just happen to know that our governor happens to be a bass player.
A bass player.
Yeah, I wonder if we could get him down here for our fundraiser.
We have a bass player because our mayor plays bass.
Oh, but the governor could maybe sit in for a couple of songs, and that would be fun.
That'd be fun. Well, I'll let you put that on your thing, get the governor to maybe come play bass. The playground has been bought and paid for. They are running about 35 to 60 days before it actually shows up. So in the meantime, I have concrete. So I've got some plans. We're getting bid out to get the playground spot ready for the playground. So anyways, I took Lance and JD out. We laid out where the playground is going at the park. So, and yes, I saw drawings. I sat down and talked to the guy this week, and he'll have them wrapped up before our next park meeting. So, yes. So we have new drawings for the park. So, anyways, we've got lots going on in the park. Oh, and we are working on we had a drawing for our pedestrian bridge on Westfield Road. Now the Sun River people would like to hang a sewer pipe underneath it. So it's got to go back to redesign. So, oh yeah, they're going to pay for the redesign, and I'm going to see if they can pay for a little bit more than just the redesign. So get that bridge built. So
Whose sign is up out here? The speaker sign, is that talking about?
That's ours.
Is that ours?
That's part of our COVID.
Could I like to make a comment about that sign saying it's 50 miles an hour?
And right by the 40-mile-an-hour speed limit sign?
Well, coming from the north to south, it gives you a caution 40 miles an hour curves. Coming from the south to the north, it says you can go 50, which means you're going to go 55 around those curves, and that's not a good speed to be going around those curves at. So
I got to try that the other day.
yeah, we had a guy try that.
Didn't make it.
But I'm wondering if that sign is going to be permanently there, or are we going to move it? Can we move it somewhere?
I wonder if we ought to move it up by the 40-mile-an-hour sign.
Coming into town?
Coming into town.
Yeah, that's
Like
where I'm
40 miles
thinking with
an
here.
hour. The other side.
Up there it is, a big old flat open.
Yeah.
Yeah, 25.
People want to see that.
How fast can I really be
There's
going?
one kid that wants to see how fast that car.
Do you have anything else?
No.
Dog park.
You're on.
Did you guys talk about the dog park?
We did, and we're getting a lot of, so dog park, bring it up. We've talked to some other city parks departments, and the amount of money they put into their dog parks to maintain it is astronomical.
I know, I've talked to them as well.
So, and
Is that what the committee decided to do?
the committee, the Parks Committee, they don't really want a dog park, period. They bring your dog and play with what we've got here and clean up when you leave. So they'll have a dedicated dog park.
Down in TRE, those people are having an open leash, they just let their dogs run wild. We still find surprises out on the lawn that they don't pick up. We do, we have signs that
They
say
have
little dogs on a leash down there.
It's cracked, so
question for Keith. Dogs running at large, we have a definition, but does the definition connotate that we
Get into this.
don't allow dogs running at large?
Don't allow dogs.
Running at large, we have a definition
I
of
didn't know
dogs
it.
running at large, but is it against the ordinance to have your dogs off leash?
For sure, I'm in control
Because I was looking for that.
of it. Okay, anyway, that's all I have, Mayor. You can go
It
carry on.
seems like a lot more discussion than we should have during this particular part of the meeting.
You want to go
Mr.
home early
Chase.
tonight? I don't have anything to add.
Really?
Correct.
Okay.
The Confluence Park meeting is canceled.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Mr. Williams.
One thing we have is that we are having a 4th of July celebration at the park on the 5th of July. Because
Yes, or the 3rd?
Monday, right?
That was Saturday. Oh, we're doing Monday the 5th?
Right, that's
Okay.
the date that it shows on the calendar as being the official observation because of the Sunday.
Yeah.
So we have said we were gonna do it on the 5th. So we're putting out some information on that and inviting different groups of people to participate. We need to put together an agenda that everybody gets to, speak to. But I think we should have a really good celebration. We kind of goofed off last year and didn't want to do anything, man, but this year, I think we can pump it up a bit.
Can I ask one question? And I know they put it on the 5th because it's a federal work holiday.
Mhm.
But for people doing stuff for celebrating the park, the Saturday may be better than something to think about because everybody may not get the 5th off. Just throwing it out there for thoughts. But
I'll do whatever you want.
it's your guys' deal. I'm just saying that they do it on the 5th because it's a work holiday and Saturday it's not considered a work day, so.
We could probably do it on either side. You might want to.
That's what I was, just.
It doesn't make any difference to me. Just tell me when you want to plan.
I'll be there either one you do, Chuck, so.
Can we do 2 days? We do one on either side?
Anything else? Okay, Mr. Snow, you weren't here for your comments earlier. Do you have anything to tell us tonight?
No, was there a discussion before I got here on that agreement with Clint Perkins?
No, we barely
Really
did
didn't
that,
have
so
any
we,
discussion.
Yeah.
we're gonna read it for the next 2 weeks, and then we're gonna go over it.
Pretty simple and straightforward. Just says that he agrees. We will convey those two remnant parcels back to him. He agrees that if when we decide to realign West Center Street to eliminate the Y intersection, make it more of a T intersection, that any portion of that is on his property, that he will participate either by conveying the land or joining a road dedication plat at no additional cost to the city, to the extent that it's no more than what we're giving him back in land up above. If it's more than that, then we probably need to compensate him for taking any other road. But
Going to
that's all
require a
that-
bridge, right?
Yeah, that's all that it says.
All right. Do we have any need for a closed session tonight? Okay, I would like to mention something to the city council after we're done. It's not confidential, but just personal.
Do we have a closed session?
We are not having a closed session. That, I think, is all we have tonight.
Oh, we've got,
Are you giving your report?
My report? On what?
On your closed session, Mayor, I think we have a couple of things on the property that we want to discuss.
are you looking at me?
I don't know anything about the sidewalk.
John, come on,
Yeah,
are you looking at me? I didn't.
no, I talked to the mayor,
Oh,
but it was just,
Go ahead.
coming through, but.
then we need to make a motion to go into an executive session for discussion of acquisition of real property. So moved. Second.
Have motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will have a closed session.
Yeah.
Taking a quick break before you move right into it.
Yeah.
Say when the
Okay.
meeting is over, what time?
Oh, well, it's not over until we go back in though, right?
We have to end this meeting.
Okay, this meeting is over at 7:17.
I'm not getting enough people mad at me. You struck this, and I don't think that should be struck, because it's part of our original ordinance, and we do require 10 copies.